So we're live in umbraCoffee episode 183, and for the first time we've been challenged in managing so many webcam videos at the same screen. And we've managed it. Hopefully you can see all of us. You can see all of us? Let us know.
It doesn't normally fit so nicely and neatly on the screen, does it? Like if it's just two of us, it's our faces really, really huge and close up, but it looks kind of good with five.
And obviously we're joined we are all joined here today by the three amazing HQ members who will be talking about anything Umbraco RC product related from this week, because obviously it was probably a really nicely I don't know what the correct name of that is, but the big milestone in terms of schedule and the calendar in the general Umbraco recent years, and we can definitely celebrate together. So what happened this week? Tell us all.
Well, we launched the release candidate for Umbraco 9, so I think that's worth celebrating for sure. It is kind of the last step before Umbraco 9 is a real product, a public release, I should say.
Yep. Yeah. Bjarke, can you tell us what the release candidate is then? Because we've been dealing with some descriptions and definitions back in the days, but it's a little bit different as well here, because it's a...
So basically it's everything, but now we also proved that you can create packages on top of Umbraco, because when we shipped the beta, we just knew that Umbraco has all the features inside, and you can use and build websites on pure Umbraco, but we hadn't proved that it was extendable for the packages and so on. And we also found some changes from community feedback and our own findings when migrating forms and deploy and so on.
Yep, that's awesome. And we've been also talking about it for weeks, that a release candidate is for everyone, basically to test it and to provide a feedback for you and for everyone who wants to use it in the more bulletproof stuff. And you did a stream yesterday, a launch stream. I didn't manage to watch it live. Where was there confetti? That's the only question which I had.
No.
Was there confetti? No confetti.
No.
We're saving all the confetti to do a big confetti thing at the...
remote confetti. That would be
We have to do some
It's not that fun when you're working from home. So you have to clean it up.
But that's a great business idea. Remote confetti as a service.
Yeah, but did you see how Warren reacted at Code Garden when he tried that out, shooting off a confetti cannon in his home? The team-up is not fun.
Okay. So, but the stream was performed live yesterday. It's on YouTube. We've been all discussing it before we went live. Everyone can rewatch it. And Rune, you kicked it off also with the product update combined with all the updates shared across the week. So probably we can just dive into that and discuss some of the other updates which are also coming next. Of course, we've mentioned Umbraco 9 release candidate, which is here for all of us to test, to play around, to break it, make some cool sites. And I really loved the information on the blog post probably here. That's for what it can be used right now. And the main part was the real projects, the real sites, and I think it's a big statement, big information which all of us were awaiting for. So is it really production ready, right?
Yeah, and it is as production ready as it can possibly be right now, and that's also why we encourage people to both test it, but also if they have projects that are going live from September and forth, consider actually using Umbraco 9. It is the future, but it will also surely help in making the final release even better, right? Because any issues, hopefully small but also big, we hope to catch them before the release candidate. We're doing the best ourselves, but we need help in testing edge cases and all of that, upgrading all of the different types of builds that are out there to the release candidate is so incredibly valuable. So we really, really hope that people can spend some of their time trying out the release candidate.
We've discussed this a few times, that if you are now starting a big project that's maybe got 6 months to go on it, this would be a sensible time to say, yeah, we'll will try V9. If you had a site that needs to be live by end of August, maybe not. But those kind of early adopters were incredibly valuable in the V8 phase as well.
Yeah.
The people who endured the pain of 8.0 and sped back a lot to make 8.1 actually stable. And I don't think 8 was properly stable until like 8.6. But
that would be hard to argue.
things have changed a lot since then, and the fact that this
true.
has gone through 10 iterations. We've had four alphas, 4 betas. This release candidate, like it's gonna be really polished by the time.
Yeah, and there's probably going to be a couple of more release candidates as well, right? So, and I think planning for Umbraco 9 and towards the release, the learning from Umbraco 8 was like at the forefront of our minds for sure. In that, like, how do we avoid some of the issues that actually occurred there? And I think one area that was very obvious and was talked a lot about was packages. And Filip has actually done quite a lot of work. We plan to migrate the official add-ons, forms, and deploy over as kind of the last stretch, so we could try out migrating packages. But then there's also the task of actually getting the community packages migrated over, right? Because it's important that they are there, and that's also helpful in testing. And Filip you did quite a lot of reaching out in terms of trying to get that on the way.
Yeah. I talked to, or I reached out to people on from like top, I don't know, 40, 50 packages or something like that on our, based on the number of downloads, and for some projects I could see from Twitter or from GitHub that things were already on the way, and other I was reaching out to people, and I mean it's pretty amazing that out of 40 or 50 packages, I think there's more or less only a handful that isn't that doesn't have an active plan or isn't already out. So it is a lot different from 8, and it's going to be amazing. And I mean that is a testament to the maturity of our community as well. That like we're at a stage now where I mean we can only do so much from HQ, right? Like this does depend on people in the community to step up and do the work for their community packages that they do out of their good hearts, and I mean we really appreciate all of that work.
I saw people.
So
this week
make sure to buy a beer or coffee for your favorite package author next time you see him or her at Goat Garden or whatever.
Yeah. I saw this week on Twitter, I think some of the community discussing how actually V9 feels very different to V8 because there's already a community around V9 before it's even out, and that's the big thing. So we can really you feel confident that you can start running on it, and the community will move over there pretty quickly, rather than I know speaking to Matt Brosford yesterday saying that people are still buying T-commerce licenses for V7, so people are still building things on V7, and it's like, okay, fine, you do whatever you're most comfortable with, but there's definitely more of a shift for people comfortable with 8 that 9 is the next logical step, and they'll be
but Filip mentioned that it needed to be changed in the mindset of community itself, because I saw it from the outside right now, like it was a collaboration to release V9 with some packages already on place, rather than just let's wait for the HQ, let's see when it will be stable, and then we can work on some packages. It was definitely lesson learned, because I also think that from V8 perspective and expectations, and also the stories, we were blocked for some of the time to release production-ready websites with V8 because packages were not ready yet. So the key packages which we got used to use. So that's differently change.
Yeah, man, and we've spent a lot of time and energy on communicating about Umbraco 9 as well, right? Writing tons of blog posts, and we've really invested a lot in trying to be as open about it as possible, and sharing where we are. When there were issues, we shared what the issues were and how we were trying to approach them, or ask for feedback on it, right? So I hope that people are happy with the approach. There's definitely still learnings that we are taking away from each release, but I think it has been I'm pretty happy with where the way it has gone so far, at least.
Yeah, and I'm pretty to see that now there's an actual RC out, right? I mean, it was pretty clear that the alphas were pretty much for, the super early adopters and the people who wanted to contribute to core and wanted to see how everything was built. And I mean, that's great and all. Then the betas were for, very much for, package developers. This was solid enough to start building your packages on top of. But I mean, the RC is the first release where it's actually like, if you build websites with Umbraco, now is the time for you to try it. So I mean, we expect to have lots of more downloads of the RC than we've had of the betas and stuff. Even though there's been a lot of feedback already, I really hope that this will take it to the next level and we will get all of those issues found so we can fix them.
Maybe we can talk about one of the key things that was actually announced in this RC, which was new. So of course, just before Code Garden, the bombshell was dropped that the package format that we've grown to love over the years is going away, and instead it's going to be NuGet only, which is cool. Honestly, it's a real pain in historically supporting that package format. So it makes loads of sense. But the one thing that it does offer, of course, is this idea of package actions or install actions that run once when you install the package. And we don't have that with NuGet because it kind of just dumps files effectively in the right positions in a project. So yeah, we needed a bridge there. And you've announced this thing called package migrations. Could you maybe share a bit more about that?
Yep. So basically they are like the internal migrations that Umbraco use, and I also know some packages used before. But now you have the able to run these unattended doing install or attended from the package section. So you will have more control if you use a tool like usync or deploy, whether it should execute on different environments. And because it is migrations, these are made for runtime execution of something. So this is
so they can really be anything. Of course, I mean the gap that we're trying to fill is the ability to be able to take document types and content nodes and all of that stuff and kind of install them along with your package. And we've made that pretty easy with this, but it's also just, as Bjarke says, it's also just your opportunity to run any kind of code at a certain point, as your package is installed or upgraded.
Yeah. So as a package creator, I know that a few people previously, when they wanted to ship content and schema effectively with their packages, they would use the package builder in the back office where you say create a package and you select files, and that would then generate a big XML file with definitions of all that content. What happens now? What's the equivalent?
So it's basically the same, but instead of a zip file, we are currently generating just the XML that was part of the zip file. And you can embed that in your NuGet package. And if you, in the same namespace, create a package migration, we have a base class called automatic package migration, then it will pick up this package.xml, which is its name, and then it will execute it. So based on the content of this file, it generates a hash, and from that hash, it generates a unique GUID, which is saved in the database. So if you change it in the future version, then we detect this is not the latest hash.
So unlike the migration where you've got to manage state yourself, actually Umbraco manages the state if it's based off the XML file.
Yeah. So if you use the automatic package migration, but of course you can also just manage it yourself. And I do that for all in the starter kit, which was package actions before.
So is that effectively this exact same package XML file, just kind of without the package metadata that was there before?
So we added a few things. So now you can pick media, and we have unique keys on everything. So this is important, so we don't.
So even if it runs twice, it's not gonna.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That's interesting. That's very cool. I was not I was not aware of that. And is there a possibility that this same file can be reused if the packages were already using actions before, or it needs to be a newly generated package?
It needs to be a newly generated package.
Okay, that's
But the use case is if you want to create files that you expect the custom website to change, because that is what starter kits is. Because otherwise, I think it's a better solution to ship it as embedded files or ship them and copy them into the solution using NuGet, and thereby ensure they will be as you expect between versions. But
or maybe even in scenarios like that, maybe even using the .NET new templates instead.
Exactly. That could be a good solution for starter kits also.
Yeah, because of course starter kits being effectively it's an example project where you install it and here's how you would do some stuff, but they're not really designed to be upgraded or
Exactly.
kind of versioned. So yeah, in that case, a template would maybe make sense. I was going to ask, of course, with V7 and 8, we've had the packages section and or at least a section in CMS where you could see packages and you can see the installed packages, and that's currently based off this installed packages config file, which I assume is long gone. So there's some big changes to packages, the packages section in V9. Can I see a list of installed packages? Is that a thing anymore?
Yeah, so it's still a thing, but we only list the packages that has package migrations, because some packages is basically just NuGet packages, and if you use any kind of NuGet package, we don't want to list it. But if you have,
it makes sense for me as a package dev, if I want my package to show up in the back office to ship with just a dummy class in there that kind of does nothing, that just registers a migration, and then it would show.
Yeah, it will, and we're also talking about moving the. You had a view earlier before for showing options. I think I can't remember the exact name, but package options. So if you have a very small package that don't ship with its own section, so you don't really have a natural location for it, we talk about moving that to the package manifest file, and if it exists, then show the package also, and then the package options there.
That's great. So I think overall, it seems like actually a big step forward for the package creation process, where it's standardized. It's going to be one way to do things. It's also a bit more familiar with the way that you would like register a custom section or a custom tree or something in Umbraco. You put a class and it works awesomely in the package manifest. So that seems really cool. It's obviously a bit of work for package devs, but hopefully nothing major.
And it's also similar to the way you create any .NET package or NuGet package, right? So it is actually more aligned with Microsoft standards, which I think is also great. Should also be more straightforward to document end-to-end how to create packages and the different options that are there, because there's not two different formats to take into consideration.
We have a great question here from Matt, who's asking if you're using existing migrations. So this is the persistent, the database migrations, basically. Or you can do anything, but it's mostly for database stuff. Can you move to package migrations, or are they very different things? Would you not swap?
No, so it's actually the same migration classes that are used, but it's the plan that is a package migration plan or a migration plan. Okay. And in theory, I can see a use case where you need both. If you have something you really want to install no matter what, and then some package migration that could be unattended.
So you could see that the migrations would still exist for tables or anything you need, whereas package migrations are for anything that might affect CMS, content, schema, that sort of thing.
That could be the solution, as long as you're, if you're using deploy and something, as long as you ensure that it is okay, your migrations are executed on all environments.
Probably we can also have some smaller packages or NuGet packages which will be installed as a part of the bigger projects or something like that. Then it can be divided into smaller packages migrations to be able to, for example, maybe ship the smaller part easier and upgrade it independently from the other part. That's where I saw it as a potential option here. But that's really cool. But you guys also mentioned starter kit, so it's something what we can use as an examples. Bjarke, you've been releasing some packages, probably also to show us and others how to deal with this stuff and that it's working. And we didn't mention it yet, but Umbraco Forms and Umbraco Deploy came out as well in the RC format, so they are all been as well tested and being tested right now, and I've highlighted for a while what's next, and obviously you've already asked for feedback and help from the community perspective. Is there anything else what's left or what's next right now from your perspective besides fixing issues which are known or unknown yet?
Yes, I think from our standpoint, what's missing, other than fixing the issues that we expect to start coming in, is more documentation needs to be migrated. And especially, documentation around some of these newer concepts. Maybe some documentation is just going to be pointing to Microsoft documentation because we are going more of the, standards way, or like how you do it in .NET Core or .NET 5. Then it's cloud. So getting Umbraco 9 ready or getting the cloud ready for Umbraco 9. I think that's actually what the team's working on these weeks. That will be ready by launch as well. And I mean, a good point maybe to mention here is that the cloud will be a little bit different from on 9 compared to 8, where in 8 you had to deal with some of the things yourself, whereas in 9 we will actually put a solution file inside of the project so that we can run the build in the cloud and I almost want to say do it properly, but I mean that's I think that's the modern way and probably the way that a lot of people want it to be. I think they'll be really good.
It's getting more aligned with.
It's getting more aligned with the best practices overall, and talking about the whole new package format and where everything is NuGet, and we no longer have the click here to install in the package section. Maybe this can actually allow us to re-add that functionality back to cloud, where we do control the entire infrastructure, and we would be able to actually update your solution file and then trigger a build and do all of that stuff. So it's actually properly installed as a NuGet package, and it goes into source control and all of that stuff. So we mitigate some of the problems that is in the runtime install kind of scenario.
There's discussions going on GitHub right now, isn't there, about what becomes of our and the package repository there and the feed that's in the back office, because of course, it's slightly different constraints around installing, as you mentioned, on cloud. It's a far bigger deal, but it's going to be an interesting thing to see, because
I think there's still a place for our in this. I think we want to be able to select what packages goes into the back office package section. Of course, you're free to install anything you'd like if it's on NuGet or wherever. But for us to be able to actually maybe put some quality control on what packages we know are used and are compatible with what versions and all of that stuff, I think, and just adding some more descriptions, some more owners, so the appropriate people can get credit for the packages that they contribute to. And I think there's still a good use case for having our and I think maybe even some of the packages that have up until now only been on NuGet, maybe they will actually make it into our as well, because it's going to be a lot easier and they don't have to upgrade it. They just have to create it once and click the box that we're now in the new NuGet format, and then from now on they can just submit to NuGet and it's all going to work.
It definitely will be easier for us, Callum, to find new Umbraco packages released during the last week, because it's impossible to track them down from NuGet, and if they will be landing on our and they will be validated, present for the Umbraco community. And I'm talking about ourselves, but generally for people who are using Umbraco, it's not that obvious that you are just going and type Umbraco in the NuGet search. You need to know for what it can be used, how to use it, what it does, and maybe see some screenshots as well. So it might be really helpful.
I think it's still very much valuable to have a kind of official place where all of this information exists, because it can be really hard to know what to trust, what is right, what has been updated, and these kind of things. And of course, there's a lot of things we can improve in the whole hour experience as well. But I definitely think the list of packages is valuable for discoverability.
Yeah. Especially to know, after Jeffrey's talk about shipping DLLs with some Bitcoin miners and some crazy other stuff inside of that, so validation might be needed.
We also have a discussion on GitHub about whether we can automatically find these packages on NuGet based on tags. And of course, this is technically possible, but we need to figure out a good way where you can claim your package on our afterwards if it's generated automatically.
That would be fantastic.
And thereby we could also try to look at the dependencies on the NuGet to see what versions are compatible. And so all of this could in theory be automated in the future.
I've got it in a few of my packages with the current format where it has dependencies that I ship, and I have to choose which version of those dependencies I ship inside the package, because they aren't necessarily Umbraco packages or even Umbraco dependencies. They are just .NET assemblies, and it might be that something works a lot better with a newer version of said dependency, but I can't dictate that with the package format. Of course, NuGet fixes it all, but this will be cool.
Yeah, the link to discussion was already showed, and of course we'll link it here. And as everywhere, I believe feedback is needed, and everyone's opinions are important. And I think starting from the discussion about NuGet couple years ago, it resulted with the amazing collaboration and output already. But now there is a lot more complexity to ship and fix as well, to make it all work for all good.
It's funny because the package team, of course, one of their first tasks was deciding what the future of the package format is, and the conclusion was package format's here to stay, and a load of tooling was built around it, and that's all great. But then as technologies changed in still a relatively short space of time, we've soon realized that actually a lot of those arguments that for keeping it aren't so relevant anymore. And it's good to see that we're not staying stuck on like okay, it has to be this way because it's always been that way. Let's feel free to break some eggs or something and move forward.
Yeah, and we've all mentioned already some packages being ready or in the work in progress state, and I think it's worth highlighting some of them if we're talking about preparations for releases and productions ready solutions. Of course, Kevin Jump and using. I don't know if it was 5 or 10 seconds after the official tweet about RC being released.
It was actually before us.
So yeah, of course, using release candidate was there just waiting for official release candidate release. So it's amazing. It's all there to be played with. Using complete as well in the beta version to be used with the recent release candidate version, and other packages creators as well worked on various releases during this week. I think Matt Brailsford also teased us with some pretty cool proofs of what can be done if we work on big packages, for example, such as Vendor, and they are distributed across versions of Umbraco. And Matt was, I don't know, maybe Matt will correct me. Matt was one of the first the package creator who really tackled this challenge of shipping it to two versions at the same time, and it works from Matt's
Yeah,
house.
so we had our London meetup last night, and we had the pleasure of being able to ask Matt a few questions about this. So he's done a multi-targeted approach for building the solution, and the justification was the vendor code base is huge. There's a lot of stuff there. It's a lot to maintain. It would be easier if you can, abstract away some of the bits that have changed a lot, or use the if directives in your code to kind of say, well, if you're .NET framework, then we know that it's going to be V8, and if you're .NET 5, it's V9. And so he did manage to get V8 and V9 running alongside each other, same code base. And as far as he said yesterday, but a few changes to the APIs, but relatively minimally. So it's all kind of happened in the background, which is really cool because there'll be there's a few breaking changes. So to get up to the latest version of 8 that will have this multi-targeting in there, you've got to change a few bits of your code. But you get to, let's say you get to the latest 8 and you get to the latest version of Vendor. The upgrade to V9 actually becomes super easy because you may have a couple namespace changes, but actually all of the vendor stuff's not going to change. Which, most other packages that have been rewritten or rebuilt with Net 5 and V9 in mind are going to have changes. And this is kind of front loading all of those onto the users on V8, but then the V9 upgrade becomes really easy. And at some point you'll have to, sever those links. You can't maintain the V8 version forever, but it's interesting to see it working and proven.
But it will be cutting off of some ifs and dependencies.
And as Lucy just tipped us off, they've actually just this morning released the V2 Alpha. So this V2 is for both V8 and V9. You can use it on both platforms, which is
nice,
really awesome.
Amazing.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then there's a really good podcast actually from the Package Manifest podcast. I think it was episode 3, where they talk about Kevin and Matt talk about the approach to upgrading or migrating to NetCore, which I found really interesting. And I'll just throw an idea out for you, Matt. It would be nice with a retrospective sometime down the line. How did it actually go? What was good and what was bad? That would be interesting to you. I'd like to hear that at least.
Nathan Wolf was asking Matt, hey, how did you do that? I'm thinking I went down the 2 versions route and then have kind of reconsidered, and I might try the multi-targeting. So care to share any tips, which is cool.
But didn't Nathan share a tweet yesterday that he made it finally? So I saw something.
That was a specific version for V9, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, on the Package Manifest podcast, Kevin spoke quite clearly about his intentions with Usync being a kind of clean start because he wanted to refactor some stuff, and Matt's was far more like about maintainability. And of course, the vendor code base is probably maybe 5-10 times the size of something like Usync. So Matt's in a very unique position that may not apply to a lot of other people, but it's also a very cool proof of the tech.
Yeah, and that actually also points back to when people ask about how do I upgrade to Umbraco 9 from Umbraco 8 or Umbraco 7, right? It totally depends on what the project you're upgrading from is doing, how it's built, right? Because there's different ways of going about it. There's different levels of complexity, but it's really hard to answer that question. Just point the database is one, but there might be a bit more to it than that.
That's where our lovely "it depends" answer comes in, and and everything is solved. But yeah,
it really does, and it really it really matters.
for the first time in life. but really, that no, I after using deployment from one environment, an Umbraco version to another, I don't see anything would surprise me right now. Everything is possible. Impossible is nothing, and more phrases like that. But more packages are prepared for us to do it basically. And again, we've mentioned Lee and another great packages such as contentment. It also has the alpha version already ready for release candidate. So it's really hard to find excuses to not build anything really production ready on V9 right now. A lot of packages, a lot of other works already there. Plus, Dennis, and we've highlighted this demo site a week ago, right? it grew up. We've been talking and discussing that maybe someone will submit some pull requests. Maybe we can ask people to do some crazy extensions of that. And then we saw some search work being already. I don't know if it was applied as a pull request or already merged. Search examples, some of the other files.
Virtual routes and content finders and stuff again, which is like virtual content. It's pulling content from an API and rendering it as kind of part of a path, which is awesome. Bjarke mentioned earlier about documentation, and I know that there's an effort around docs and it's coming, but this right now is honestly fantastic for documenting like how you would go about building a site. And I said this last week that it's also really clean, clear, easy to follow, relatively best practice. So
it's great inspiration, right?
Yeah, really cool.
And there is also one more new package release which we wanted to highlight, and it's from Javan and Crumple.doc team with a Slack notifications for also V9 Plus for all the health checks. And I think again a lot of the teams realize how health checks and checks generally are important for their projects, and a lot of us are working with Slack, so I think this is one of the essentials for combining both, and yeah, it's there also to be tested, to be worked and used across the various installations, and that's probably from the short list which we had compiled. That's all right now. Anything what we missed? Anything from your perspective, guys, in terms of packages? Packages. I'm just checking my list. Sorry. Yep. Of course, if we'll jump on the package releases generally, not only for V9, there were some more updates as well. One more, Bjarke, yours package. Why you're staying silent here? You've released Umbraco Examine PDF package. Can you tell us more about it, maybe?
So this is actually a package we also had for V8, but now it's available for V9, and now it's on our. I don't think it was before. So it's just a package that adds another index and index all the text from PDF files. So as in the example, you can create a multi-index searcher and thereby also find documents or PDF files.
Very nice. And I noticed, of course, there's no release attached here, but that's because it's on NuGet. And
it's on NuGet, and
no
if you watch it from the back office in V9 release candidate, then the no current release will be replaced by install instructions.
Really cool.
Cool.
And how many packages are listed now? 2, 3?
6
in the back office. 6. All right.
What an ecosystem. 6 packages.
But it's a good business opportunity for all the new package creators just to pop in and be there first in the first list of packages being ready. That's an opportunity.
Some might argue it's actually good with a little bit of cleanup.
Yeah.
True.
Another package which was released this week is version 4.2 of CMS import. Which is right now working with the latest changes in Umbraco Media Picker and some other fixes being shipped as well together with that version. And the package inbound linked errors package from Patrick, which I haven't used yet, has its own new version 1.08 with a massive update for the inbound linked errors. Everyone who might be using it already or wants to use an error reporting package for inbound links can and should check it out. It's a really well built package too, with a really cool dashboard there as well. That's from the packages world.
There was one more. Lee Kelleher likes to slip packages under the radar and do them straight after umbraCoffee. So this is from last week, but Lee released contentment 2.1, which includes changes for, well, I think, as he said here, it's kind of aligning it with the V8 release, which is sensible. Yep. And I did a release on a package recently to do exactly the same thing. But it also included a bunch of features, I think, opening up some of the classes that may have previously been internal, or he may have just had knocking around his laptop somewhere. So yeah, it's really, really cool. Lee's obviously on fire with contentment.
Yep. And there was no expectations of releasing RC of Contentment V3, but it's in alpha version, so it's not RC. So yeah, but it's there. It's there. We missed some of the Umbraco 8 updates then, and if we're on this topic, probably it's worth jumping back to some upcoming releases for this version of Umbraco. And Rune, it's coming from your product update, because the 8.15, which is known as Pied Piper Chad release, is going to be out on Tuesday.
Thursday.
Is it correct?
Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday.
Mine are always on Thursdays.
Yep. So RC was out, testing was performed, and it's coming. It's coming next. Same. Anything to add to that? Any more feedback about its speed and performance?
I think it's well, if you want to know about the performance stuff, I think going and watching Shannon's talk from Code Garden, it's also up on the Umbraco HQ YouTube channel. Is the place to get the right information, not from me. But I'd also like to highlight the updates that are coming to the media picker. And there were actually both updates in 14.1, which we released a couple of weeks ago, that updated the aliases on the media types, so it didn't block people from... It's better. Let's just say that. Things like article might be used in other contexts, and things like that. So the patch was good, but I think with the minor, there's some really great stuff in there. There was a ton of feedback from the community again, based on the 8.14 release, stuff that we had missed or maybe didn't consider as important as it actually was shown to be. And on the back of that, we've updated the media picker, so it's now backwards compatible or forwards compatible. I don't know which way that actually goes. You can only switch one way, I know that, but that means that if you are using media picker 2, you can now switch that over to media picker 3, and it actually migrate the database content so it works with the new media picker. It's actually Ronald who made the fix for that. New hire at Umbraco, but he's been in the community for a long time, right? But he did some great work, and he also fixed up the helper methods,
and the model.
so they actually
the models that get returned as well.
Yeah. So there's a lot of great fixes on the latest release. So I think that's definitely worth highlighting.
So if anyone's using 14. Is there a breaking change if you've done anything with the media picker and the models and the extensions?
Yeah, it's all noted in the release candidate blog post with links to the issue tracker. But it's small. It's like signatures on some of the methods and things like that. So there can potentially be, but they're very easily fixable, and I don't think most people would run into.
You would have had to have been doing something very specific in the first place to get an issue when you upgrade.
Yeah, and of course, if people find anything else, then let us know. But I think we've got it pretty well documented what has changed there.
Cool. That's great.
I think we've had this thing where when we wanted community feedback, we needed to put 1 million hours of work into doing an RFC, and it takes a long time to go through. And that's probably why we hesitated a little bit with features like these that are big enough that we should get feedback, but maybe not big enough to warrant the whole RFC process. And I mean, looking at this retrospectively, we should have had this discussion before we shipped 8.14, no doubt about that. But I mean, looking at, we immediately took that learning in and said, okay, how do we make sure that this new tabs thing don't end up in the same thing? And we started out, we made a GitHub discussion. It's the new thing that GitHub opened, right? And all of this discussion is really informing that next project. It's not an RFC, but we kind of propose how we want to do it, and we actually ended up changing the design a little bit based on the discussion on GitHub. So it's, I mean, I think that also shows that we are maturing as an open source project as well, figuring out like how do we involve people at the right times for we don't want to put out an RFC every week that will make people just not care about them. So we need to find the good balance, and I think I think GitHub discussions is a good way to take some of this off.
It's a limited group that engage with the RFCs and the RCs as well in terms of testing and ironing these changes out. So what better way to get feedback than break something for someone, because it will you'll instantly get feedback on that. But the discussions are a lot lighter and easier to engage with. It's more of a discussion than a formal process like the RFC is. Throwing ideas around is.
I think that's a really good point, because as Filip mentioned, there is a time investment from our side. Like it feels like a big thing that we have to do, and we have to get it right when we put out an RFC, or we try to at least. But with those discussions, it's less effort on our side. It's faster to get the feedback. But I also think it's not as big a task to engage from the community side, so it actually works quite well both ways.
Yeah,
and again, it's done to. Sorry, Callum.
I was going to say, on discussions you have threads as well, like kind of it starts to chain conversation. So on the RFC before, you'd have huge responses coming back of someone addressing one person's point then another's, and it gets very complicated, very difficult to follow, but much easier with discussion.
Yeah, we might even want to use the discussion features for future RFCs as well for that reason, exactly.
Yeah. I was going to say that the processes are made to be working, not just to be made and to be followed, right? So if it's working better, that's probably better for all of us, to make it easier to deliver and easier for being fixed. But that's great to see that, and yeah, discussions are doing a really great job in general GitHub ecosystem, and it's glad it helped for Umbraco project as well. Patches. We've mentioned patches, but quickly, some of them came out for Forms Deploy and Umbraco CMS 8.14. Suggestion is to still use 8.14 as a bigger minor upgrade, which has also some other fixes and upgrades for this version. And one more information which was released in this blog post was the Umbraco 7 with the big round of applause for it after years of serving. And being right now moved into security only phase, security only patches phase, right? So, yeah, big round of applause for V7. Still being used, heavily used across the various projects.
It's still good.
Still a great product. It's nice for us to finally be able to say, we don't have to look at bugs or issues referring to 7 anymore. It takes a lot of work off Sebastian's desk, so that's really nice. Of course, we'll still be handling security issues as they come up, and we'll continue with that, I think, until sometime 23. So it's not going away anytime soon. But it will allow us to focus more on newer development. I think everybody wins from that.
Yeah.
Great. 2 quick updates regarding Umbraco versions, and we can move to some news and blog posts. One blog post from Chad about high performance Umbraco 8.15. It was released after recent updates and information about this version. Great blog post highlighting what was done there, why, and how it behaves and what its fixes. And challenge for the next performance freaks and people who are really interested in making Umbraco faster and speedy. It's a challenge from Shannon about improving and optimizing default short string helper and span of T, which again we can redirect everyone to Shannon's talk from this year's Code Garden about some really in-depth improvements of performance and some possibilities. But this is a highlighted problem which can be optimized, and there is just requiring a time and dedication from someone's side to work on it. But it's not easy. We all know it.
I also just want to call out there on Chad's post, which is, as you say, really good, very detailed, really nice insight. He's also mentioned at the bottom that there's potentially, if you upgrade to 8.15, you're going to save a bunch on like Azure resources. He'd like to see what gains you make, but maybe if you do manage to scale down your Azure resources, he's got a GitHub sponsors link, so go and maybe chuck some rewards his way, because he's put clearly a ton of time into optimizing V8 recently, like an incredible amount of time. So it would be great for him to be able to continue to do that if we could support him.
Absolutely.
Links, of course, as always, will be down below the video, so just follow and find it and support each other. Blog post and some updates from HQ. Busra released a work in progress update from documentation curators team. So you guys mentioned already that the documentation will be constantly updated and being worked on, but there's a lot of things already happening. The team is constantly working on some not only V9 but V8 docs and videos as well. So yeah, the updates here, a big update of every award, everything what happened, and with the one highlight here about the what's the correct name, Callum, for that? Umbraco. It's Umbraco Documentation Appreciation Day,
which is also twin, I think, with an Umbraco Tees Day. So, like, you know, put an Umbraco T-shirt on and let's celebrate the efforts of the people that contribute to the documentation, both on the team and in the community. Which is, it's worth doing. They had one last year, so we can do another one, can't we?
Yep. Next week, next Friday, help make documentation.
One of the great takeaways from this, for those that have been working with Umbraco for a while, you'll remember the V6 cheat sheet.
Yes.
That was like, I think it used to be handed to you at all of the trainings as well with the booklet, and you'd get like a printout of the cheat sheet. And I've probably still got it somewhere in a box. It was an incredibly useful, it was like a Razor cheat sheet. Here's all the things you need to do. When Umbraco moved away from being like web forms and an XLT to Razor and MVC stuff, it was like, you know, people are a bit lost, and they're making another one for V9, which is awesome, because guaranteed this is going to be, there's going to be some pain points, some things where people have to get used to the way stuff's done in Net Core or Net 5.
Good memories. Good memories. Good memories. But we've been all using that all the time. Awaiting maybe posters in some offices, new posters in the offices with the cheat sheets. Script is next on our list. Two great posts about user experience and editor's experience in Umbraco back office. One post and one article written by Dave about everything editors related to make them happy. In general, great highlights, great tips from very experienced Umbraco package creator and Umbraco project creator. I think a lot of notes which I've taken even from this post, so everyone can learn a lot from this one. And second is from Team Pain, another great experienced Umbraco developer, and post is oriented on speeding up and supercharging people who are using block list editors.
Creating custom experiences, and he's got some tips as well of do's and don'ts. You know, if you've got a more complex component, trying to simplify that into its most basic form as the preview, that sort of thing. I've always said this, but the block list can look really, really good with a bit of extension, and this is a fantastic example of someone doing that with minimal code. You see the code samples there. Couple of lines, copy and paste them.
Yeah, really cool post.
And quick updates, new videos for Code Garden. If it weren't enough already to catch up, I call them my progress. As you can see here, everyone can see my progress on catching up on the Code Garden stocks.
Still only watch the rabbit videos.
Yes, rabbit videos, rewatched a couple times, but videos are here to be catched up, and two more updates from sorry, Rune.
I know Arnold is probably screaming at me right now. I just finished rendering five more videos, so there will be more content going up on the Code Garden list today.
Nice.
I think all in all we'll have more than 60 videos up.
Nice.
In whatever, about a month's time when we are done with it all. It's quite an undertaking to get all of these videos done.
But it also proves and shows how much efforts were placed into making all of the content shared across the whole event, and which is again amazing. And here we can just expect more. I'm curious about the views and about reaching more people with its content, because there are a lot of questions. People want to watch videos and learn how things are built and how to build things. So it's there. no more excuses of not having information shared and visible. And two last things on the Umbraco blog this week. The July EU profile, which is Nurka, and he's from Turkey and England. I remember I probably met Nurka on Umbraco UK Festival back in the days. It was
and he was definitely at Spark as well.
Yes,
whenever that was.
Bristol. Yep. So yeah, story about Nurka, about his involvement into community, everything else. Check it out on Umbraco blog post. And same with the new hire, which is Wojtek Wróbel, which I can pronounce safely. He's from Poland. He's from Poland. I won't be testing you guys with these pronunciations, but yeah, Wojtek's story and everything related with his involvement to community, and his story began with Umbraco 4.7, so massively impressive. Again, so yeah, check out new hire. And great story about a new web developer in Umbraco family who will be working on Umbraco websites, right? Umbraco.com.
He's in Coma. My close colleague working on Umbraco.com and Code Garden sites and all of these things, which is also important QA part of the whole HQ operation.
Dog fooding.
Nice.
Use your own products, right?
Yep.
Nice. And that's, of course, everything from our list. Yep. That's our list. There is one question about any news about Umbraco Swag Store. Any news?
I have no idea.
No
news then. No news.
I think Matt would probably be the right one to give an update about that. I literally I don't know. I have no idea. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I have to say I did receive very kindly in the post from someone at HQ one of the 2021 Umbraco Code Garden shirts, because I think Arnold said first person to tweet me gets one, so I think I managed to be the first person. But it's cool. So I guess I'm one of maybe a few people in the world with one of those. I'll start the bidding at €200 and we'll work
keep it.
You need to start an NFT
like
of
Bitcoin.
that.
It'll just go in value.
NFT. It will be worth millions. Cool, guys. So thank you for this updates and everything. Keep us busy and updated with everything coming from your side. Once again, I think the biggest call to action is to test RC and share feedback. Not only check blog posts, but if we are running any projects and we are willing to do something cool with Umbraco, check it out and see if it's doing its job, and share feedback if it's not.
Yeah, the problem is that Bjarke doesn't really know what to do with his time right now. So if you can find any issues over the coming months, so he actually has to work.
You're catching up on lost sleep in the past 18 months, maybe.
If not, he will be making cooking tutorials.
Oh my dear.
So.
Multi-talented.
But I don't know what I prefer, to be honest. Cooking is also good. So cooking software. I don't know. Whatever you prefer most. But yeah, keep it coming. And yeah, good work. And I think it's worth saying congrats on releasing this RC. It's a big milestone and good work from the combined effort of everyone involved.
Yeah, congrats to everyone. Like there's been a ton of contributions to V9. The community team has done an amazing effort, right? There's so many people involved in this, and we all benefit from it. Yeah.
I heard yesterday that I think Lottie said that there's something over 400 pull requests to the V9 branch, and 70 of those or something are community driven. There was a very decent percentage, 30-odd% of all the contributions to that project have been from the community, which is lovely.
Impressive. So yeah, big kudos and big high five, you rock, for everyone involved. Awaiting the new releases, we'll be of course sharing all the news about them. We'll be testing, breaking, trying as well. So yeah, and reporting back to you, community, if you will like it, subscribe it, share it, watch it, because that's for what we are doing it. And we will of course be here on the next Friday with all of you. So thanks everyone. Have a lovely weekend ahead. And we will see each other on the next Friday.